welcome back to my channel. My name is Erica. Today we are going to be making these super cute pin cushions. They are so much fun and they're perfect scrap busters. I will have all the information on what you need in the description box below this video, so make sure to click show more there. Today we're going to be making this adorable little star one, but I will have information on how to make this patchwork and strawberry one as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're gonna start out with some fun fabric, and you're gonna need 12 1.5-inch squares of fabric, printed fabric. You're also gonna need 16 1.5-inch squares of a background color, and then another 5-inch square of your background color. And then you'll also need a rotary trimmer and some kind of acrylic ruler. And if you're curious, I am using this new line of fabric. This is from Poppy Cotton. It's called Goose Creek Garden, and this line releases in March 2021, so definitely check that out. It's super fun and pretty. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So take 4 of your background squares and just set those aside because we won't be needing those right now. For the rest of them, take a pin and just draw a diagonal line from corner to corner on all of these. I actually have a little piece of tape on my machine that helps guide me, so I'm not going to do that. And we're going to be making half square triangles with all of these fabrics. So we're just going to take one of our background squares and one of our print fabrics. We're going to place them on top of each other like this, right sides together. Right sides are the pretty sides, so you should have the wrong sides facing out. And you're going to sew directly on the line that you've drawn from corner to corner. And we're going to do that for all 12 of these printed pieces. Now I get asked all of the time what this tape right here on my machine is. This is Cluck Cluck Sew 1/4-inch tape, and I will make sure to link it below, but it's super handy if your machine doesn't have a feature. You can also use a regular piece of washi tape, and you just line up the line that you want to follow with your needle line on your machine, and it just makes it super easy, and it saves you from having to draw lines on all of your fabric. And then I just line up my corner here with my line, and I know I am getting a nice straight seam. All right, so here is our little chain piece of all of our little squares. And now I'm just going to take these and I'm going to line up my 1/4-inch line on my ruler here with the seam and just trim it off. So I'm cutting 1/4 of an inch away from my seam, and I'll just line up a few of these at once. And so I've just cut them all off 1/4 of an inch away from my stitch line, and then I'm just going to trim them apart. So here they all are. I'm just going to take these all over to my ironing board and just press them open like this, and then I will re-square them all up to make sure that they're all 1.5 inches square. So I feel like I love this project already because it gave me an excuse to use my tiny Oliso and this sweet little cut and press mat that I got in my Sew Sampler box. All right, so these are all nice and pressed, and then I'm just going to trim them up really quickly. Just make sure that they are 1.5 inches. They should be pretty close. All right, so I've trimmed all of my little pieces up, and now it's time to have a little bit of fun. So we're gonna bring back in our 4 that we left plain, and now we're just gonna organize all of our little half square triangles in some sort of a pleasing manner. These outside ones are gonna be our star points, so those ones you're gonna wanna make sure are going the right direction. All the little ones are gonna be needing to go towards the center. All right, now that we have our star kind of organized how we would like it, we can go ahead and add in these solid ones on the corners. And now we're ready to sew. So I like to chain piece mine, that way they don't get out of order. You could sew row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, but I'm actually gonna chain piece this row first, and then I'll add on this row and then this row, and that way everything will stay in order. So I'm just gonna take this second row here, flip it right side over and lay it on top of the first row, making sure that I don't twist any of my pieces or rotate any of my pieces. And then I'm going to take this whole stack over to my sewing machine and sew down this right edge using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm also going to take these and stack them up in order like this, and without twisting them, and bring these over to my machine. That way I can just add this row once I'm done sewing, and then I can add this row, and then everything will stay in place. All right, so here's my first row done, and I'm going to be careful not to change them at all. I'm just going to fold them open. I'm going to grab my next stack of fabric here and just do the same thing, and I'm just going to add these one at a time. Now for this one, because I want my seams to nest, I'm actually going to flip my seam up so it's not so bulky. All right, we're gonna bring back in our cute little pressing board here, and then we're gonna open up our pattern. Just make sure we didn't mess anything up or nothing got twisted. And I think everything looks good. So I'm gonna flip it over to the back side, and these little pieces are kind of tiny, but it'll be worth it in the end. And I'm going to press all of my seams one direction. You can also press these open. I just never have enough patience to press my seams open, so this is how I do it. So I'm just going to start on this one side and press these seams this way. And if you have a quilter's clapper, it's a good time to use that. So I pressed all these seams going this way. For this one, I'm going to press them going that way. Okay, so my seams were pressed going opposite directions. I'll just put that on there for a second, just let that cool. And then if I had any that I'd originally pressed one way, I'm going to go ahead and fix them for whichever way they went when I started sewing. This little mat is super cute, but I don't know. I think it's better for decor. And then this row is going to go the opposite direction. Alrighty. And then we can flip this over and we should have a little star happening here, and it looks good to me. So now we're just going to lay this first row on top of that second row. Make sure that all of our seams nest, and we're going to sew down this edge using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you're new to quilting, nesting your seams means this top seam is going to the left, this bottom one is going to the right, and you can really just snug those right up next to each other. And if you'd like, you can put some pins in there as well. So we're going to take this to our machine, sew along this edge, and then we'll bring it back and repeat that process for our other 3 seams or 2 seams. Here we go, all done. Now we just need to take this over and press it, and we'll be all done with our cute little star top, and we can get on to making our pincushion. All right, here is our cute little finished star, and then we're gonna just square it up. Now it should be about 4.5 by 4.5, but because I sewed with a scant 1/4 inch seam, mine is actually more 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. I just line up my diagonal line with these points here and then just check all my edges. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is a pincushion. So just make sure that it's basically squared up, whatever size yours ends up being. All right, so this is basically square. The next thing we're gonna do is just place it right side down on top of our backing. Now our backing is a little bit bigger than our square. I just wanted you to have a little bit extra just in case your seams were a little bit different than mine. But it should end up at about 4.5 by 4.5. And I'm just gonna go ahead and sew all the way around these edges, but I'm going to leave an opening in one of my sides just about like 1.5 inches wide or so that we can turn this right side out. So I'm going to start somewhere down here-ish, and I'm going to backstitch at my stop and starts. All right, here we are, and I am going to just trim off any excess, and then I'm going to just cut off the corners just slightly. That way they will turn out a little bit easier. Then I'm going to take my corners and I'm just going to snip those off. You don't want to cut into your stitch line, but this will just help reduce bulk in those corners. And then we can just carefully turn this right side out through our little pocket. And one thing that you want to be careful about that I forgot to tell you is to backstitch right here so that this little half square triangle doesn't come apart. So I'm going to do that really quick, and then we'll turn our project right side out. All right, I just folded it in half and just did a little backstitch right there so that hopefully that will stay together just slightly better. And then just be careful because this is small and kind of delicate, but you're just going to want to carefully turn it out through your little hole here. And just take your time. I'll probably speed this up for you so that you don't have to sit here watching me struggle to get this out. And then if you have a hair marker or a corner turner, you can kind of use that to pop out these corners. All right, and then here we go. I am going to take this over to my ironing board, and I'm just going to press it, make sure everything's really nice and tidy. And then I am also going to press in these edges by 1/4 of an inch right here. Just press those so they're nice and flat. That'll make it a lot easier when we sew this up. All right, so here we are. I pressed my little pincushion. It's looking super cute. And then, of course, true to form, I always forget to mention something in my supply list. So you're gonna need some kind of pillow stuffing. I actually prefer walnut shells for my pincushions. However, I cannot find mine. I know I have them somewhere. I just can't locate them. So I do have some pillow stuffing, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that for this. You can also use rice. Can kind of use whatever you have on hand, which is what we're doing today. So I am just going to start stuffing this stuff into my little opening here, and you can also use a hair marker to help push that in. One of the other things I found helpful to use is this little purple tool. I think it's called a purple thing, actually. I think that's its actual name. But you're just going to want to stuff your little pin cushion full of stuffing until it's pretty much bursting at the seams. And then all we have left to do is sew up our opening, and we're all done with this adorable project. And I will have exact cutting measurements for everything, including supply lists for everything that I'm using in this video in the description box below the video. So just click the little show more link down there. And if I have time, I'll even write up a PDF pattern as well. Okay, I think our little pincushion is nice and full here. So now all we need to do is take this, and you can either hand stitch this up using like a little whip stitch, or because I'm kind of a machine girl, I'm actually going to take this over to my machine and just sew right along this edge, just making sure that I get both of the layers together, and we'll be all done. Just need to clip our little threads. All right, guys, so as you can see, that project was super fast and easy. It's a perfect scrap buster and a great way to spruce up your sewing room and just make everything a little bit cuter. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to thumbs up and subscribe. That way I know to keep making fun projects for you. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time.